Guess who's back? I am right now in Portugal for the Maia Chess Open, or people also call it the Anna-Maja Chess Open. Maybe we will organize our own tournament one day, but this time it's the Maia Chess Open as we are in the place called Maia. So it's with an I, so not with a J like my name is, but yeah, it's super awesome to be here, and it's such an amazing tournament where 12 streamers in total are streaming their games. This is unheard of, and it's such a fun crowd. It's so amazing to be here, but we are going to talk about my very first game, because yesterday the round started pretty late and my game finished pretty late too, and I was exhausted. So I'm super excited to share the recap of round one with you. Let's take a look what happened. So in the first round, I faced Antonio Castellanos Bogalo from Spain, and he is rated 1983. So it's the first round, anything can happen, you don't know what to expect. Fortunately for me, we did get the pairings 2 hours before the start of the round, so I did have some time to prepare, and I found something really interesting in my opponent's games. After e4, which is the move that I played, e5 is what he usually plays. After knight f3, he doesn't go for the usual knight c6 that we see in most games in chess, especially classical. He plays d5, the elephant gambit. I have never faced this in over-the-board classical ever. I actually don't think I ever faced this over the board. I've only seen this online, and every single time I don't know what I'm doing. I get lost with my knight gets attacked all the time, and I don't know what I'm doing. But this time I had a little bit over 30 minutes of time to prepare before I had to leave to the tournament hall, and that was enough time for me to figure out what to do. I take e takes d5, but here my opponent went for the move bishop to d6, and here I thought, oh, that's another move that I did not know existed, because I prepared to move e4 or queen takes d5, but for some reason I did not really think of bishop d6. So yeah, there I was, completely out of book on move 4, and I don't know what to do. And of course I'm up a pawn, and the elephant gambit is not good, especially in classical chess. It is not supposed to be good, but as the player that I am, I'm used to very sound and very classical type of openings theory. I've never faced this in my life in over-the-board chess, so I don't know what I'm doing. So from this moment onwards, every single move I'm hesitating and I don't know what I'm doing. So I played the move d4, thinking that, okay, I'm trying to reason backwards, like, okay, my opponent didn't play those moves that are the most played moves, they are the most logical ones. This is also logical to play bishop d6 because you're defending the pawn, but I thought, well, at least there has to be a reason why this is not the main move. So that's why I thought, okay, let's play d4. I have the time to play d4 now, and I'm just opening up my pieces. My bishop on c1 can develop soon, and I'm just creating more space for myself. So after d4, my opponent went for e4, and here I played knight e5, but apparently there's also knight f to d2, which is the best move by a little bit, but it just felt so passive, and I guess the main target is at pawn e4, so we try to attack it as much as possible. But what I didn't like is that my opponent could maybe play move f5 and start pushing those pawns. It gets a little scary, so that's why I didn't really like it. So instead I went for knight e5. I thought, let's just go for the activity, and maybe we involve some bishop b5 check move. So here my opponent went for knight f6, I went for check, and by the way, my opponent made his moves so fast that I really thought I was doing something wrong. So my opponent for c6, I thought takes, and surely there is some line that I can take on c6 with, let's say, knight takes c6, but then I calculated queen b6, and I don't really know, because if I take on b8, then my bishop will be captured and my knight on b8 is trapped. So instead of that, if I just make a developing move, the knight takes c6, I lose a knight. I will be able to win the knight back with d5. But here I thought this is exactly what my opponent wants, I guess, and I didn't really trust this at all. So because of that, I had no idea what to do. I spent some time on this move, well, not too much, because I figured that since my opponent was playing so quickly, I have to go back. There's no way. I have to go back. And I was also really scared of, let's say, if I were to go to a4, I was thinking maybe there are some bishop takes, pawn takes e5, queen takes, king takes, and some knight g4 ideas where my pawn on f2 is under attack, the pawn on e5 under attack. I really didn't like this. So apparently it's fine, but I didn't quite believe in it. So I went back to e2, and then my opponent went for the move queen c7. So here my knight is under attack, so I thought simply knight c4, and I thought bishop takes h2 has to be a mistake. It has to be wrong. But I didn't really know what to do about it, because if I play g3 now to try to trap that bishop, then bishop takes g3, pawn takes, queen takes g3, and the computer says I'm surviving, but that is because king d2, and after e3 check, I'm running to c3, and I'm running all the way towards the end of the queen side, and I thought, yeah, there's no way my king is safe here. Also knight e4 check, with the idea to play knight f2. I mean, yeah, not really what you want to play when you're facing a low-rated player in the very first round, because if it doesn't work tactically, you're just lost. So why risk that much, right? So I thought I can leave that bishop there, and I'll just continue developing with knight to c3. So then bishop e6 was played, and here I went for bishop g5. Once again, playing g3, I thought that was the end of me. Also, I was so exhausted during the game that for some reason I thought the bishop was gone and I could hide on c1. But when I was calculating here, I was like, the bishop is on c1 and I can't run to c1 with my king. So that's why bishop g5 came to mind, to just move the bishop. And here, knight b d7 was played, of course, because I want to take that knight and ruin my opponent's pawn structure. Queen d2, I'm simply developing the queen and making sure bishop f4 is not happening. So that bishop is quite restricted. So that is something I have going on for me. h6 was played, and here I retreated. I was a little sad that I thought in this position I was not doing so well. Of course, my opponent's pawn structure is really terrible with the pawn on e4, pawn on c6, and pawn on e7. But I thought for some reason that I'm just stuck and my pieces are not in the right squares, and I just didn't know what to think of this position. So yeah, I thought I completely misplayed this elephant gambit because I just have no idea what I'm doing really. So my opponent went back with the bishop, bishop d6, knight takes d6, queen takes d6. So at least I had a bishop pair. So since the dark squares are also super weak, I thought, okay, there's something here. There must be something here, but I wasn't entirely sure what. So bishop f4, simply attacking the queen. Queen goes back to e7. I was thinking if queen b4, then I can take on e4, knight takes e4. A classic puzzle rush tactic. So after queen takes d2, there's simply knight takes d2, and then I'm up a pawn, a clear pawn. And if queen takes b2, I was more than happy to sacrifice all those pawns. Let's first give a check, king moves, and then let's say short castle, just to connect the rooks, and then the rook to b1, and we're fine. So that's why I was happy to go for this line, but my opponent didn't go for queen b4, which made a lot of sense because queen e7 is the more safe move. So that made a lot of sense to me. I play queen e3 because I want to win the pawn, and I am running into some forks here, right? Because knight to d5 is a little bit annoying, but I figured that if anything, I either take on e4 or I take on d5, and I thought both were pretty fine because if my opponent takes back with the bishop, then I can just play c4, right? And if c takes e5, then my opponent's pieces are just really bad, and I have the bishop pair, so that should be a long-term advantage. So I was really confident in my chances here, but of course, I still have to do some work to win this game, so yeah. That's why I wasn't entirely sure what was going on there, but my opponent went for the move knight to b6. So this move, I thought it made sense because my opponent really wants to play knight d5 and recapture with the other knight. So this did give me the chance, the time to play move queen to g3. I was not interested in taking on e4. I think tactically that was just wrong, or at least not desirable, because it allows moves such as queen b4 check, or you take first and then play queen b4. Also knight b d5. All these moves come to mind and they don't really seem great. So that's why queen g3, simply attacking pawn g7. And not just that, I'm also threatening to play bishop d6, which means my opponent can't castle, because then a rook on f8 will land there, and then bishop d6 loses material, right? So that's why I thought, this may be getting interesting, because this is really annoying for my opponent. My opponent spent quite some time on this move, and he played move rook h7. Crazy move. I thought, okay, I was thinking during the game, what if my opponent plays a move such as rook h7 or rook g8? Because the thing is that during the game, I was also failing to see how to defend that pawn, and I thought, what if my opponent actually goes for rook h7, and then my opponent went for that, and I thought, whoa, wait, now I don't know what to do. Because it's so defensive, and it's always really difficult to try to destroy a defensive setup, right? There's no way this rook on h7 is good. In the long run, this is going to be really good for me, but how do I make use of this? So I played bishop d6, simply attacking the queen to d8, and I go for long castle, because I thought I don't really have any attacking ideas just yet. I want to centralize my pieces, make sure my king is safe, and involve my rook very soon. So my opponent went from knight b to d5. Knight takes d5. I simply want to take the knight and trade pieces, because I want to open up the position. My bishops want to get to work. At least this one still needs to do some work here. So my opponent went for knight takes d5. I go for c4, attacking the knight to e7. And here I spent exactly 1 minute on this very move. I played d5. Now, I thought this is game over. This game is going to end very soon. What I didn't realize is that my opponent played knight e7 to play the move knight to f5. And I was so embarrassed that I missed this fork, which is like right there. My opponent just moved the knight back to go to f5. It's right there, and I'm just missing this simple fork. I could not believe my eyes. Fortunately, I was attacking that bishop on e6, so this didn't really matter as much, and I'm still much better. But during the game, I thought I completely blew the advantage that I could have had in this position. And I thought I had the advantage, at least. I wasn't entirely sure, of course, but yeah, after knight f5, I thought I completely blew it. I could not believe I'm allowing such a simple fork. So yeah, during the game, I was so embarrassed, everything. Instead of d5, I just had to retreat the bishop to a3, and I can slowly play d5. There's nothing my opponent has here. My opponent's pieces are completely disconnected. I can play d5 whenever I want to, and there was no need to go for d5 here. But I was impatient, and I thought that in case the bishop, let's say pawn takes, and let's say knight takes, there are all sorts of tactics here, including bishop b5 check, bishop d7, queen e5, or you take the knight on d5 already with rook takes d5. The pieces are hanging, and that's why I thought this is completely winning. But then knight f5 happened, and I thought, okay, all right, it's not going to be so easy, Anna. It's not going to be so easy. So after knight f5, queen e5 was played by me, accepting the fact that I'm going to lose this very strong bishop. But my opponent didn't take it. My opponent went for c takes d5, and here I thought, wait, my bishop still gets to live another day. So rook takes d5. I spent some time on this because there's a lot of moves that come to mind. Of course, do I take on d5? Do I play c5? Do I retreat with the bishop? But ultimately, I thought that rook takes c5 was the right move. And it had a lot to do with the fact that after, let's say, knight takes d6, I would have taken with the rook, queen e7. And here I was thinking of moves such as queen takes e4. Because after queen takes d6, queen takes a check. And after king e7, then I'm going to take that pawn. And this should be completely winning. If my opponent wants to trade queens, I can trade queens and try to win this endgame with a pawn up. Should be pretty easy. Maybe I'm overestimating it, but you can just take the pawn for free. soon rook d1 will be played, and yeah, this is completely winning. So this is what I was relying on. All right, my storage was full. I was recording in 4K. Bad idea. Let's go back to the game. So I play rook takes d5, and I was just saying that the king on e8 is going to remain stuck there because of my bishop if the bishop will not be captured on d6. So this is going to be such a scuffed recap. Anyway, my opponent went for rook c8, and here I played with bishop c5, and I was really happy to see afterwards that this was the best move. The last two moves were the best moves in the position, and I wasn't that sure about my moves, but seeing that those moves were actually the best move in the position made me really feel happy, because during the game I had the lowest confidence I've ever had, I think, because I don't know, I was not feeling great during the game, but we'll get to that later. Queen takes d5. My opponent sacrifices the queen for some material, because my opponent realized that the position is falling apart, this rook is coming in, all those pieces are just stuck. I'm preparing g4 or bishop g4. Everything is basically collapsing here. The black position cannot stand for much longer. So queen takes d5, it made sense to try for this, because there are still a lot of tricks that I have to deal with. C takes d5, rook takes c5, king b1, and rook takes d5 was played. So here I was scared to take on e4, because what if a bishop lands on f5 at some point? Let's say knight to d4, and if I take on h7, then bishop f5, and we are in a, I want to say equal position, but I'm actually going to be down a pawn here. So actually it's not down a pawn, it's even material, but here I should be down a pawn, because the bishop is hanging and the pawn on f2. So that's why I didn't want to take on e4. I thought, let's play queen b8 check and go for the pawn on a7, so I'll have two connected passed pawns here that still need to be pushed quite a bit, but yeah, we'll see what happens. For now, this rook on h7 is also pretty bad. So king f6, g4, knight to d4, and I'm trying to be really annoying here, and I play g5 check. So in whatever way my opponent takes this pawn, I'm winning material. So then the idea is that my opponent can't take the pawn. Well, h takes g5 would have been interesting, because the rook takes h7. That rook is bad anyway, so black doesn't want that rook at all. Knight takes e2, and I still have to fight quite a bit to win this game, because it's not easy at all. So that's why h takes g5 would have been the most challenging move here, but my opponent went for king takes g5, and I was really happy here, because I knew that rook h5 check was the winning move. King f6, I'm taking the rook on d5, bishop takes d5 is what, well, that's like the automatic response, right? But then I would have taken the knight on d4, and I would win the game very easily. So that's why my opponent went for knight takes e2, trying to keep that material imbalance, you know? I went for rook d2, knight f4, queen d4 check, king f5, queen c5 check, king g4. I was in time trouble here. We were down to like a minute on the clock, so that's why I was playing fast here and just giving checks here and there, trying to see where the queen would be best placed. Rook d1, g5, rook g1 check, king h5, and here I'm starting to push the pawns, because that king is, well, if it goes to g6, then black has to spend another move, right? And for now, this pawn h5 is not going anywhere, or h6 I mean, so since that pawn cannot move forward, I feel really confident over here. I still have to do some work, rook h8, b5, knight d3. I was seeing some ideas that if I go completely crazy, maybe rook c8, rook c1 checkmate is a possibility if I go really crazy. So there's still some ideas for my opponent. Queen d4 was played by me, attacking the rook, so the rook had to move. And here I was considering some interesting idea actually. I was thinking of rook h1 check with the idea that let's say king g6, I take the pawn with check, and then after bishop f5, of course it looks really dangerous with this going on as diagonal, but here I thought rook takes h6, king takes, and queen takes f5, and I thought this was completely winning, but I thought, what if my opponent is somehow going to be able to stop those pawns, and then I have a problem converting this? So I thought, let's just play b6. Let's play b6 and push those pawns on the queen side, and what can my opponent do? My opponent is stuck, and the pieces are not working together right now. It's going to take a few moves to have how the pieces work together. So yeah, this is actually the position that my opponent resigned. I was a little bit surprised by it. I thought my opponent would make a few more moves, and yeah, it was a big relief that the game was over, because here's the thing. Yesterday, it's the day after. So yesterday, when it was the day of round one, I woke up super early, and it was a very long day. We were setting up the streams and everything, and when the game started, which was 7:30-ish, it was supposed to start at 7, but you know, opening ceremony and all of that, and finally we started a bit after 7:30, and at the game I was just extremely tired. Like, my head was hurting a lot, I was really going through it, and just the entirety of the game I was just suffering from a headache, like major headache. I don't know where it came from, and I started to realize that it was not because of lack of water or lack of food. No, it was lack of sleep. So that's when I realized that I need to sleep. I need to take a proper sleep, and I need to take care of myself quite a bit. I mean, I'm trying, but for some reason I'm waking up early. I think it has to do with the fact that my room is literally next to the road. Like, this morning I realized maybe that's why. Like, I'm hearing the car sounds quite a bit. Maybe you can hear it on the video as well. But I'm hearing it quite a bit, and it's not really nice. So yeah, it usually doesn't bother me, but maybe this is why I have like very light sleep. So anyway, enough yapping. It's a really awesome experience so far. Round one in the books. Let's see what is going to happen in round two. Round two is happening later today. So yeah, I'm planning to upload recaps of all the games, so make sure to stay tuned for those. But we also have live streams of the games, so make sure to check those streams out as well. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the love and support already. I'm seeing some comments, I'm seeing the live streams here and there. It's so amazing, and I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back competing again. It's only been a month, but yeah, it was a very long month. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.